I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 232, Toxic People. If your husband is struggling with a pornography problem and you want some help with it and you are not finding the resources that you like, you are in the right place. My name is Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach. I am an active member of the LDS faith, and I am the wife of a former porn addict. And on this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools that you need in order to start your healing journey. This is where I'm going to show you how to dive deep into intentional living, how to rekindle connection with your spouse, how to manage all that emotional turmoil that you're feeling, how to break the addiction cycle that you have to your husband's addiction, and tell you all of the ways to do that and start healing. I am so glad that you're here, and I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, my ladies. How are you today? I am doing great. I am home. My husband and I just got back from a trip. We went on a cruise with my parents and my kids, and it was incredible. And it was so fun to go and to spend some time with my parents, just us. Usually there's at least one other sibling. So it was great to have just time alone with my parents and to be able to have that space and have them be able to spend time with us. We were able to go to some beautiful islands in the Bahamas and just spend time together. I love cruises, mostly for so many reasons. But one of the reasons that I really like them is that I don't pay for internet. And my husband doesn't either. And so we're not on our phones, right? We're not just sitting and scrolling. It's just really a time where I wasn't working and he wasn't working, obviously. And so it's a great time. I really enjoy that you're not just picking up your phone, right, when you're bored. It's that there's nothing really to do. So you just talk to each other and engage with each other a lot more. I really enjoy that. If you guys haven't ever done it, here's a plug for going on a cruise. And it was fantastic. And we went on a Disney cruise, which was just like so magical. And my kids were just loving every second of it, and it was just so fun. And if some of you guys are sitting there wondering how on earth I went on a cruise with my husband and didn't worry about him watching porn and didn't worry about him looking at other women, and I wasn't worried about who was in swimsuits or what we would run into on the beaches, all of that is because of all of the work that I've been doing and all the work that I teach my clients how to do. And if you aren't there, then I want to offer that you come work with me so that I can help you get there, so that you can take these kinds of trips. It's actually something I've been coaching one of my clients on just over the last week. She's planning a family vacation, and we're actually doing a one-on-one call tomorrow, just her and I. And that's what this is coming up, ladies, is all of our stuff, all of the things that get triggered. All of that can be worked through. What it is triggering is negative emotion. What it's triggering is emotional baggage. It's triggering physical insecurities. It's triggering thoughts of comparison. It's triggering feelings of inadequacy. And all of that, ladies, is internal. And all of it can be processed and let go. And then you can retrain your brain so that you don't keep repeating those same patterns. And when you do that, that is how you're able to go on a 1-week cruise to the Caribbean where everyone is in swimsuits and you don't think twice about it. And if you want to get there, ladies, then I want to offer very strongly that you come work with me. I will help you. I will teach you how to do it, show you exactly how, and I will work with you every step of the way so that you can have this too. And even if you're sitting here being like, well, I don't want that kind of thing. I don't want to go on a cruise for a week. Totally fine. Maybe the cruise isn't your thing. Maybe you don't want to go on a beach vacation. But if there's something in your life that you want, if there's something in your relationship that you want that you don't have yet, and because of all of the stuff that still comes up, maybe you want to be able to engage with him physically in a way that you feel like you're unable to. Maybe you want to be able to book the vacation. Maybe you want to be able to go on a girls' trip without him. Maybe you want to be able to, whatever that thing is that you aren't doing because of the stuff that comes up, or you're doing it and it's just super miserable and uncomfortable the entire time because you're just triggered constantly and your anxiety is through the roof. Come work with me. I will help you. I will teach you exactly how to get where I am today. It's not magic. It's actually just a little bit of work, and I can help you do it. And it's so much easier if you allow me to help you. Anyway, come work with me. I would love to do that with you. And that was just something that I kept thinking over and over while I was gone, because I always get messages of, how are you doing this? How are you at this place? And it's not because I'm a unicorn and that I'm special. It's just that I've learned the right tools and I've applied them and done the work. And you can do it too. And I can help you do it. So there you go. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention, ladies, is kind of on that note, is I am doing a brand new masterclass in November, and I want every single one of you to sign up for this. Okay. This is on attraction. I am calling this my attraction masterclass. This is a brand new masterclass that I've been doing that is kind of inspired by what my husband and I have worked through over the last couple of years. As you know, he was addicted to pornography. And then 2 years ago, he told me he had been attracted to other women. He was having feelings for other women. And over the last 2 years, we worked through a lot of that. And this is what inspired this class. Understanding really what attraction is, what it's not, how to navigate that in a marital relationship. What do you do if your husband's attracted to other women? What do you do if you're attracted to other men? If you're having feelings for other men? How do you navigate this in a marriage when you feel like, maybe you feel like you're more roommates now than husband and wife? Maybe there are things that he does, like maybe it's watching porn or something else, that you find really unattractive. How do you navigate that? That is what this class is going to be all about. Okay. And so I really would encourage you to sign up for this. This is something that's being taught inside my coaching program. So you can either sign up for my coaching program and you get in automatically, or you can sign up just on your own. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's going to be November 18th to the 21st. This is a 4-day masterclass, and it's going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern every single day. When you sign up for this class, you can sign up. It'll be $149 to sign up for the entire week. You get access to that whole week live with all the calls and coaching, and you'll get access to all of the replays for life. So you can either, again, sign up just for that week for $149, or you can sign up for my coaching program and you'll get access to that plus everything else that goes along with it. But you'll get access to that as part of joining my program. That's just already included. You'll get in for free. So again, that's going to be November 18th to the 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern every single day. And again, I'll put the link in the show notes. The show notes is where whenever you see your podcast come up, it has like the title and then it has like the description of what it is. It's in there. It's in the description. So just underneath the description, it'll just say like, all right, here's the link for the Attraction Masterclass. You can go get all the details and sign up there. And I would love to see you there. Again, I would highly encourage every single one of you to come so that you can understand what attraction is, what it isn't, and how we can really navigate that in marriage. Okay? All right, let's dive in. Okay, 7 minutes later. Sorry. I had to catch you up on all the things. Okay, I want to talk about toxic people. Are you guys ready? I hear so often about toxic people and toxic situations. And I wanted to bring this up because with the holidays coming up, there are lots of scenarios that you may encounter where there are certain people that are toxic or certain situations that are toxic. And that is a phrase that I hear a ton. And as I have been thinking about it and as I've been hearing it, my first thought is, okay, well, what does that mean? And I want you to answer that individually. If I were to ask you, let's say I had never heard this phrase before, toxic people. Okay, what is a toxic person? What makes somebody toxic? What makes an individual or a situation toxic? Some people will be like, oh, that's just a toxic environment. Okay, well, what makes it a toxic environment? Describe it for me. Define it for me. In your head right now, what is a toxic person? And maybe you have a certain person in mind. You're like, oh, I know who it is. I can tell you exactly what it is. It's my neighbor, Kara, blah, 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 right? Or maybe it's whomever. You're thinking of a certain person. Maybe you're not thinking of a certain person, but I want you to define it. If you were going to define it to me, for me, and describe it, what would you say? Okay, now here's what I want you guys to notice. There aren't any. There are no toxic people, and there are no toxic situations because it's a completely subjective definition. If every single one of you listening to this podcast told me your definition of what a toxic person or a toxic situation is, they would all be different. It's completely individual because there is no such thing. I even tried to look it up. Ladies, if you try to look up a toxic person, On the internet, there's not a definition. There's like all of these health journals that tell you, okay, here's what you do if you found a toxic person. 7 signs that this person is toxic in your life. None of that is true. It's all garbage. It's all completely subjective and individual. There is no objective definition of a toxic person or a toxic environment. Do you want to know why? Because environments and people are circumstances, and circumstances are neutral. Ladies, people are neutral. And this is a great time. If you guys don't believe me, I'm going to prove it to you right now. You guys ready? We have an election in the United States happening tomorrow, okay? For each candidate that is up for election, half the people love them and half hate them. Half the people in this country would say this candidate is toxic, and half the people would say the other person, the other candidate is toxic. That person, that candidate does not create a certain feeling in people. That person, that candidate is neutral. That person is a circumstance. And that's exactly the same with the people and the circumstances and situations in your life. The environment that you are in, the people you are around are not toxic. And when you think about them in a way that puts them in this light, where you label them as toxic, what you're doing is actually giving those people or circumstances all the power over you. And that's what I want to caution you against. When you call someone toxic, you are making an excuse. Usually we like it because we make an excuse for our behavior. Okay, this is one of the reasons why we like to use this term, because if that person is toxic, then the way that we behave is not our fault. Or what we choose to do around that person is not our fault, right? I just hate them because they're toxic. I just don't engage with them because they're toxic. I'm going to go through some examples, but we often will then excuse our behavior by placing a label on that person. Does that make sense? Or our responses to that person. If we have an interaction with that person or that environment, if that person or environment is something we label as toxic, then it's not something that we really fully take responsibility for. We kind of excuse our choices not as true choices. We make them a result of that person's toxicity. Does this make sense? Let's do an example. I have 2 different examples to hopefully help you see this, okay? Example number 1 is, I actually heard this on a webinar the other day. I had to quit because it was a toxic environment. Okay, number 1, I want you to notice that when you use something like this, when you use a toxic circumstance or a toxic environment, you make yourself the victim. I had to quit. Or even if you don't say I had to, you say I quit because it was a toxic environment. Okay, you can still choose to quit. One of the reasons why we want to label it is, again, because we want to excuse the choice that we made. We want to excuse our behavior. This is my excuse for quitting, was that it was a toxic environment. You don't need an excuse. You just need ownership. You can still choose to quit, but you don't have to blame the workplace. The workplace is not at fault. The workplace is neutral. Obviously, it's not literally toxic because otherwise nobody would work there. Okay. Now, maybe your brain is like, well, they have such a history, like nobody lasts more than 4 months. That's just proof that it is toxic. Our brain likes to collect evidence, to look at all the people that, this company drove away, etc., in order to prove our story. But again, when you're taking responsibility for your choices, you don't need the story. And you don't need evidence. All you need is to back yourself up. And you can simply say, I chose to stop working there. And take full acknowledgement that some people still work there. And it doesn't have to be a toxic environment in order for me to stop. Again, one of the reasons why we like to label people or places with the label of toxic is because then it excuses our behavior. Okay, here's another example. We can't see his mom because she's toxic. Okay? Ladies, this is not true. His mom is not toxic. Or whatever that person is in your life that you're choosing not to see or engage with, they're not toxic. Does it mean they're the best friend? No. Does it mean that you have to see them on holidays? No. It doesn't mean that you have to see them. but I want you to notice how you perpetuate a narrative that is only going to continue to create a wedge for the rest of your life. Okay, especially with people that you have close relationships with, or maybe you don't have close relationships with, or close ties to is maybe a better way to say it. Again, especially with holidays coming up, I want you to notice, what if we allowed people to be neutral? What if we allowed them to just be circumstances? Okay, if you want to work through this, I have 3 steps for you. Okay, number 1, who do you think is toxic? Again, maybe it's a scenario, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a relationship. Have you ever thought that relationship was toxic? Okay, I've heard that so many times about people when they talk about their ex. That relationship was so toxic. Okay, I know it's just a phrase that we kind of use, it's slang, and yet there's some belief to it, and that's what I want to caution against. So start noticing in your brain, who or what do you think is toxic? Step number 2, why? Okay, we want to identify it because that's always the first step. Step number 1 is awareness, ladies. This is where we are. Why? What do we think is toxic? What person or situation? And then number 2, why? Now your brain, this is where your brain tells the story. This is where your brain says, okay, the reason that his mom is so toxic is because la da 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 da. The reason that my work environment was so toxic is because la da 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 da. And your brain's going to have all of the reasons. Write them all down. It's totally fine. And then I want you to, step number 3, challenge your brain to make that person or situation neutral. And here's how you do it. It's by taking full ownership of your thoughts about them. Because everything that you tell me, right? Everything that you write down about, okay, here's my toxic person or situation. Why are they toxic? And you write it all down. That's your story. Those are all just your thoughts. Now, your brain thinks that they're fact, and they're not. They're just thoughts. And by taking full ownership of them, that's when we regain control. And that's when we can allow that person or situation to be neutral. We don't need to label the person as negative in order to keep our thoughts about them. Did you guys know this? You're allowed to have thoughts, positive or negative. You're allowed to have negative thoughts about somebody, even if they're not a toxic person. You're allowed to simply not like them. You don't have to label them as toxic. They don't have to be factually toxic in order for you to not engage with them, to not spend time with them, to not vote for them, whatever it is. You don't have to label them as toxic. But what's fascinating about this exercise is that it could require, and it probably will, requires a little bit of reconciliation in your brain once you own what you're thinking. Okay, so when you write down that whole list of why do I think they're toxic, that's all of your thoughts. And it might take some reconciliation. It might take you saying to yourself, okay, I'm just going to take full ownership of this as a thought. Because it's easier to throw a label on something or someone and think that it's fact and then gather evidence about it to prove that it is fact, that they just are toxic, rather than to take responsibility for what your thoughts are and recognize that they're just your opinion. Did you know this? It's so much easier to just have certain things be bad or toxic or wrong than it is to actually just say, this thing is neutral and I'm choosing to think of it this way. I'm choosing to think that his mom is toxic. It's not that she is toxic. I'm just choosing to think of her that way. And that kind of might take a little gut punch, because part of us sometimes, and this may not be true, but there might be part of you that has a hard time reconciling that part of you thinks that. It's much easier to just create the pattern and then the narrative that that person just is toxic, that person just is negative, and then we don't have to really take a look at our thoughts. The problem is, again, ladies, is that when we label things or people as toxic, then we are the victim to them. And when you are the victim, you are not in control. And that's what makes these family scenarios so difficult over the holidays or anytime you get together, because all we're doing is waiting for people to operate in a toxic way, and then all we can do is react. And that's what I don't want for you. I want you to recognize that you have full autonomy, that you have full ability to control your life and your relationships. And that includes the way that you think about the people in your life and about the situations in your life. Now, again, I want you to notice that you don't have to switch to a positive thought. Just by removing the label of something or someone as toxic does not mean that you then have to have positive thoughts about them. You do not. You are allowed to have negative thoughts about them. You do not have to go to their house for Christmas. You do not have to put yourself in that situation again, but it then gives you the choice. The situation is neutral, ladies. You have so much more control than you think. And that's what I want to offer to you guys today. So, number 1, identify who or what do you think is toxic. Number 2, why. And then number 3, take full ownership of those thoughts. And that's what's going to allow those circumstances in your life to actually be neutral, for you to actually take full control of your thoughts and your feelings, to process how you feel about it, to let it go, to change the story if you want to. But even if you don't want to change the story, it still gives you the opportunity to actually take control of how you're affected by those people and situations. And that's what I want to offer to you guys today. I love you ladies so much. I will see you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care. All right, ladies, if you enjoyed this podcast, then I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take everything on the podcast and we actually get to apply it in order to transform your life. And I know that that is a big promise, but it's 100% true. On the podcast, it's like learning how to ride a bike. It's like reading a book, an instruction manual via audio on how to ride a bike. And my coaching program is where you actually ride the bike. And that is what creates the transformation. This is what actually enables you to go from point A to point B, to actually create the transformation that you are seeking. If you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you are loving everything, but you just can't see the end from where you are now, then I want to help you. Come work with me one-on-one. I have a lifetime access program, which means it doesn't expire. You come work with me. I will help you every step of the way and work with you personally to make sure that you get where you want to go. I can't wait to see you there. Head to my website today, joleneWynn.com, and sign up.